Imagine tweeting this out, and considering who tweeted it out, Li Yang of the Chinese Communist Party. Oh, the fucking stones on this guy and the division that he's sowing in with it, okay? We all know that Canada, the Trudeau Liberal Party, I should say, be a little bit more specific, and the Chinese Communist Party have a working relationship. How deep they are, we don't know. Is it a nice firm handshake, or is it a tongue kiss? It's like halfway down your throat. Like, what kind of relationship are we talking? I think it's a lot more of the latter, so much as the former. But at the same time, it kind of looks like the CCP is using the useful fool for as best as he possibly can be used right now, by seeing the fomenting of tensions right now in the wake of everything that's happening with the residential schools. And you know what? Maybe his time has come, okay? His usefulness has run out, and they're going to go ahead and post these memes, unironically. It's not bad, but if you're going to be putting them on native skulls, I would probably, if I was to post this, probably flip reverse it and just put it as middle class people and people from like Alberta and Saskatchewan and working class communities. But yeah, no, if he wants to go ahead and tweet this out, I just keep in mind a little bit of an alteration, but this is supposed to be propaganda anyways. Yeah, Trudeau there looking a little bit too good for a fucking piece of propaganda, but yeah, I'd accentuate a couple of features and, you know, maybe play up the Castro heritage, but that's just me, just a little bit of a pointer. We stole your land, we killed your men, we buried your child, good grammar. Let's reconcile. First and foremost, Justin Trudeau couldn't take candy from a baby, let alone land from anybody. Killed your men, again, at the same time. I think he'd break his finger if he were to, in fact, pull a trigger. Buried your child. Yeah, I've seen a couple of those shirtless boxing pictures, and you know what? I think he probably could dig a hole. I'd just encourage him to jump in afterwards. He had nothing to do with this, okay? And you know I love to roast me some Justin Trudeau, because I think he is a complete and total piece of shit. And at the same time, he allowed all this stuff to happen. He could have been like, wow, that's quite a fucking tragedy. And yeah, we'll get to the bottom of it, but should you be taking any responsibility for it? Fucks no. It's not what you did. It was something that happened a long fucking time ago, okay? What do you think? Just giving these people fucking money is going to make it any better? No. You're just going to create another dependency, which you're expertly good at, and it's not going to help anybody, okay? But that's what this is supposed to do. It's supposed to sow that division even deeper, okay? It's supposed to turn Justin Trudeau's pet project of the native people against their good white savior. The cynic in me kind of hopes it happens, but then the realist and the person who looks at the information is like, this motherfucker's as corrupt as the day is long, and this is supposed to be a propaganda piece, because mostly who this guy is, yeah, he's a Chinese diplomat. This is fucking interference at such a the base level. It's really hard to just call it anything other than that. Chinese diplomat calls Trudeau boy and says Canada is running dog of the U.S. I'm sure it translated like that because he ran it through Google. And remember, this came out at about the same time, March 29th, 2021, when all of that stuff about training the People's Liberation Army up here in Canada at some of the Air Force bases in Ontario, and then the one here in Edmonton area as well. So yeah, I think that they're starting to turn on this fucking useful idiot. China is resurrecting Mao-era rhetoric as they ramp up the insults and belligerence worldwide, even against those who had previously been fans of the communist state. Yeah, you just have to take a look at the different incentives and perks that Trudeau and his government pals have given the CCP recently. Just the one that's off the top of my head, giving Huawei all of the technology contracts for a whole host of universities, which, what could possibly go wrong? The Chinese Consul General in Brazil, for some reason, decided to slam Justin Trudeau on Twitter, calling him boy and saying Canada is a running dog of the U.S. Boy, your greatest achievement is to have ruined the friendly relations between China and Canada and have turned Canada into a running dog of the U.S. spendthrift. I think it's a little bit long for the fortune inside of the cookie, but if you just work on it a little bit, you might be able to fucking make something of that statement going forward, you know. Running dog is a slogan of the Mao-era China, an era that Xi Jinping is increasingly emulating as China turns its technocratic authoritarianism to full-blown totalitarianism alongside increasing belligerence. Yeah, I think it's time to act for the CCP because they also realize that their own homegrown infrastructure is really cratering, and because everything's all centrally planned there, they got a lot on their fucking plates. They're gonna have to start making moves. They're gonna be starting to expand their borders. Looks like they're gonna be starting with Taiwan here very shortly because they just released a little bit of a plan. And they realize that their biggest adversary in the United States is only going to have a little window of opportunity before everything starts to get muddled up again, big time in 2024. But then everything kind of just ground to a halt by about 2022. Well, obvious political reasons. Like I said, we actually got some good information on this. And yeah, whenever it comes down to who do I appreciate more, the CCP or Canada, as much as I hate Trudeau, I gotta at least stick up for Canada, okay, and the Prime Minister's office, because I respect the office. Some great men have held the office. His predecessor I would include in that list as well, but it's Canada at the end of the day. I will never appreciate anything that the CCP does outside of just meme territory. But Trudeau, big ol' fail. His censorship bill fails to pass through the Senate. This happened late on Friday, and I couldn't be happier. This is fucking awesome. This is the first part of the one, okay? And if Bill C-10 couldn't get through the Senate, Bill C-36, the hate speech one, yeah, no, that one has zero fucking hope as well. And I'm glad, because the Senate, I didn't really have much hope in them, but every once in a while, an unelected body can do something correct. Good old MP Pierre Poilievre released a video Saturday when he announced that Bill C-10, the controversial bill that would have regulated Canada's content online, has failed to pass through the Senate before summer break. Yay! So it's going to take a hell of a lot longer. He says here, we did it. Pierre celebrates the fact that the Senate has closed its doors for the summer without passing Bill C-10, making it nearly impossible for Trudeau's Liberals to make their censorship dreams reality. We've at least stayed our digital execution for a few months. We did it. We won the battle for freedom of expression, Poilievre announced. Remember Bill C-10, the censorship bill that would allow governments to control what you see and say online? Well, the Senate closed its doors for the summer without passing that bill. Terrific, because what would it have actually been? Well, we got some kind of guidelines on it, at least. Trudeau's censorship czar, Steven Guilbeault, you know, the Greenpeace felon, fucking bag of shit, promotes government guide to reporters to combat disinformation. Here, we're hearing a lot of disinformation online. Would you please take our propaganda outlet, our guides, so you can properly do your job, so you can indoctrinate the masses? Trudeau's censorship czar heritage minister, Steven Guilbeault, has put out the guiding principles. Oh my god, he sounds like a televangelist when he writes this type of stuff. The guiding principles on diversity of online content to help reporters combat disinformation and misinformation. It's just a nice way of saying lies and smears, okay? They don't have the balls, and they also don't have the receipts to call anything that is criticism of them a lie. So they'll just call it disinformation or misinformation. Because you don't know what we know. So if you knew what we know, you wouldn't be saying so many hurtful things. It's just another extra step in there in order for them to muddle the conversation. It's just like how we were talking with Corey Bush there in the previous video, or pick your fucking nutty leftist of choice, whatever. They put out these fucking batshit insane fucking statements akin to just being on one of these sympathetic platforms, taking a shit in their hand and fucking smearing it on the wall and being like, that's my policy going forward, and then just skipping off stage right. You gotta muddle through all of the garbage in order to get to what the fuck is actually going on. And it's something we've been dealing with the Liberals since 2015 with. Guilbeault released a statement about the guide saying that we can no longer ignore the challenges and opportunities that come with the increasingly digital world. Just lamenting the fact you can't censor it all and close it all down and just keep it for yourself. We have to act now to ensure a healthy ecosystem online for all citizens. There will be concrete action that Guilbeault's department will take to implement the guiding principles. Within a year, he said. Yeah, cool. Any measure to address the disinformation and misinformation should ensure a respect to the rights and freedom of expression. Yeah, really, bro? Really, bro? You want to regulate large content creators. You want to get that fucking micromanagey. You're such a bag of shit, dude. Does anybody unironically believe this hunk of garbage? Like, honestly. He says one thing, he slams his critics, and then he lets leak what the critics were saying about him at a fucking later date on a smaller platform. He's a fucking garbage human being. I'm done being civil with this fucking asshole. Hope he's showing you what hand he loses in a propeller accident. New U.S. border to rules for fully vaccinated land travelers now in effect. I said we had some good information as well. We got some more good stories because you aren't going to need to show your papers if you want to clear the southern border, which kind of fucking sucks, especially if you're up here in northern Alberta like I am, and some of you are as well if you are significantly away from the border. And I know that there is something that I really wanted to fucking go to in like mid-August, and it doesn't look like that's going to be likely, and it doesn't really matter if you're allowed to fucking fly if you get the jab, because I'm not being told that I have to do anything in order to do something that I could have done 2 years prior to this horse shit. I'll just fucking wait it out. Or if this is here forever, well, guess what? I'll be getting one jab to get across the border. I'll do it once, I'll do it to leave, and then never come back. But if you do live closer to the border, like 80%, I think I've seen a study of that, 80% of people are within like 3 hours of the border. From here, I think it's 11. So you can cross the land border without having to show your papers. As of Monday, Canadian citizens and permanent residents who are fully vaccinated are permitted to cross the land border from the United States with no further requirements for testing or quarantines imposed. Yay, good. On the back of Justin Trudeau taking a trip, over for the G7, over to the United Kingdom, and then coming back and going right back to work. Meanwhile, if you were a regular citizen, you'd have to stay at one of those Chateau Trudeaus and one of the 3 allotted cities in the entire country at like a fucking $2,000 clip and waste 2 weeks of your life because we're still back in 2020 in the first fucking few goddamn days of this lockdown. The lifting of quarantine and testing requirements also applies to persons traveling to Canada by air. Okay. According to Global News, in order to be admitted into Canada without the requirements for quarantine and or testing, one needs to be fully vaccinated with one of the approved jabs, have received the last COVID dose within 14 days before coming to the border, submit a negative test within 72 hours of coming to the border. Oh my god. How many pints of blood do they want? And a fucking scalp sample. Upload the vaccine certificate and COVID-19 test information with the updated ArriveCan app. Yes, the fucking spy app you need to put onto your phone. Great. Take and pass a COVID test upon arrival. Okay, so you need to get both jabs. You need to have a negative test, and then you have to test again using one of those 50-50 tests. Awesome. Definitely won't be a ridiculous shit show. Should also be noted that above still applies only to essential travel, and non-essential travel is strongly discouraged by Canadian authorities. Yeah, but I haven't been out of the country in like, alright, I had to go for stupid fucking work a couple of years ago. But outside of that, for pleasure, oh my god. I think it was Dallas in 2014. Yeah, it's been a minute, and I would, but I'm going to wait this out because I'm a man of principle. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of step one until they decide to fucking close everything down again and reinstall all the fucking mandates because they worked so well the first time. As soon as they decide to, I don't know, fearmonger on that fucking Delta variant. Is that still going on? I don't know. I fucking checked out taking a look at all that stuff because it's just so blatantly another one of those last grasp efforts to try to get a little bit more fucking traction out of this pandemic. You should be scared. There's a plus variant and there's going to be more variants and it's spreading. Fuck off. And I think finally we're starting to see some people push back against this stuff because you don't really see it in Canada. Okay, you see a few of the fucking anti-lockdown protests, okay, and they normally number, and the few thousands of people do turn up. There's normally a big one that happens all the time in Toronto and Montreal. I don't even know about Edmonton, but there was a big one in Calgary as well, and they happen. But now they've been replaced with riots and statue topplings and church burnings. But on the positive side, on Canada Day, in fact, Alberta did lift their restrictions, and nobody's enforcing masks anymore, which is fucking awesome. There's still a lot of people wearing masks, and I don't really care. Fucking do you. It was just nice to go out and finally see some people's faces over the weekend. You don't realize exactly what you've missed. It was just, I don't know, it's just kind of a little bit of a ramble here, but it was nice to go out and see people, not see a fucking piece of blue cotton over their face and just their mean looking eyes because nobody wants to be outside. Nobody wants their glasses to either fog up or just have to mutter through whatever you're trying to say and try to make an intelligent conversation and go, oh yeah, that's funny. This is quite a weird situation between you and the fucking cashier who's between a fucking sheet of plexiglass anyways. But yeah, the people in Ontario are starting to push back. It's a good sign. I don't know. There's still way too many people for my liking to just sit back and fucking put their head down and be like, yeah, you know what, it was kind of our fault that all of those native kids got killed all that time ago, even though we don't have any information as to how they die, if anything was reported, or how many people are actually in the ground. But yeah, no, that was definitely all our fault, and we should be sad about it forever. And even though my church gets burnt down, or you know what, I'm not even allowed to really go practice, so even if it does get fucking burnt down to the ground, I don't really know if that really matters, because who knows if we're going to be going back. That's mostly what Canada does, and it's nice to see people pushing back. Prime Minister-elect spoke on Thursday about wildfire, which destroyed most of the town of Lytton, BC, when he was interrupted by heckler. Buy everybody out. This is bankrupting us. Canada's bankrupt. The man yell. Heckler interrupts Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, calls him a traitor to Canadians. Trudeau was just summarizing his points in English and started to repeat them in French because he's such a good multiculturalist. Fuck off. When a voice can be heard off screen, every Canadian is suffering, Justin. You're a traitor to Canadians, the man said. That's not fair. You're just thinking of yourself. Very much so. This dude's based. He said Trudeau should be arrested. Hey, you know, hey. For this, yeah, I would love to see all of these dickheads across the world. Everybody who logged people down, I want them all fucking thrown in jail for all of the misery and suffering and business closures that they have wrought across the world. I'd love them all to be thrown in jail. I just think that the worst atrocity of this fucking pandemic is going to be the fact that all of these motherfuckers are going to get away with this stuff. You got to hold them accountable at the ballot box, and if that doesn't work, we'll cross that bridge if we get to it. I'm just saying, nothing's off the table. As you can tell, I'm kind of fucking tired of putting up with all this horseshit. So yeah, that whole idea of him passing these fucking restrictive bills, like Bill C-19, it did go through the House. Not too sure if it went through the Senate or not, or if it was one of those ones that was kind of waiting. It was pretty much the 2020 presidential election. It's like, ooh, all of those policies, they're real good. They ended up getting passed up here in Canada, at least through the House. Don't know if they're going to be in there. Yeah, I just think that Trudeau was waiting for those to go ahead and get implemented. Then he'd snap, call an election. But then all the polls started to come out where he wouldn't really be gaining anything. It would more or less just be a kind of a lateral shift where he'd once again just have to make a alliance with the NDP and the Bloc and the Greens in order to maintain his power. Meanwhile, the Conservatives just kind of flounder and slowly erode away. Perhaps the Liberals would take a couple of seats from the NDP. They might take a couple of Conservative seats, but they wouldn't be anywhere near a majority. So that entire idea of him calling a snap election has just kind of faded into the fucking wind. I don't know. We might still be heading for one by fall. That was all the talk, which I sickly hope for, because if he continues to be the leader of a minority government, that's fine. He can continue to do stupid shit and people can fucking call him out for it, and eventually he'll piss off the NDP or somebody who's in power enough where it can allow for the Conservatives to do something. And then at the same time, if this is just kind of a shuffling of the deck chairs on the floor of the Titanic rather, you could oust out Aaron O'Toole and then we'll get somebody proper in place, or it can start to build up the People's Party of Canada, which is something that I would definitely like. But we'll see where it goes from here. Some good, some bad, mostly just the big takeaway of this one. Trudeau really sucks at his job, but did we need a 20-minute video in order to discuss that? Yeah, we do, because it's always fun. Anyways, we got something really kind of off the reservation for the next one. So if you want to laugh at some love-struck bitches, I got a couple of stories for you, and they're going to be pretty funny. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.